Shanta showed me how to put a sword on at least 10 times. I couldn't do it. Finally, Mary Rose showed me that somehow I got it.
Alright. Have we started yet?
Yep.
The live stream?
Yep.
Oh god. How did they use the picture? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balava Girivadadari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Gopi Jana Balava Girivadadari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Yashoda Nandana Vrajadana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vrajadana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balava Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Vrajadana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Soter Satya His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki His Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Vrindavan Nam Ki Shri Mayapur Nam Ki Ganga Mai ki, Yamuna Mai ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Tulsi Devi ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki, Gantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nita Gaur Pramanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru Angaranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswati Saraswatim Vyasam
Devam Saraswati Vyasam
Tato Jayam Udirayat
Viraya
Yastapareshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Actually, it's the appearance day of Saraswati. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as a reliable fact. All right. Actually, it's a lot of appearance days today. It's the appearance day of Saraswati, and it's the goddess Saraswati, and it's the appearance day of Raghunath Das Goswami. It is the appearance day of Vishnu Priya Devi, the wife of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is also the appearance day of Pundarika Vidyanidhi. It is Visant Panchami, and it's also the disappearance day of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And then somebody else I can't remember, but we've got a very. I was looking at the calendar. There's like a whole entire list, but this is the ecstasy. We're heading into a very ecstatic season for us as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and this all leads up to Gaura Purnima. You'll notice on the calendar you're going to start to see the appearance days of more and more associates of Mahaprabhu. Right now we have Vishnupriya Devi, Raghunath Das Goswami, and then later we're going to see that Dvaita Acharya is going to appear, Lord Nityananda is going to appear, and then so it's a very ecstatic season for us. I'm very, very fortunate. Every time this time of the year comes around, I think, oh, I'm so fortunate to get to spend this time with devotees. Because when you're in a situation where there aren't devotees, yeah, there's still ecstasy because there's that season. You can celebrate it on your own, but it's more fun with the devotees. So today we're going to be doing Canto 4, Chapter 21, and Text 32 today. Instructions by Maharaj Prithu. And Srila Prabhupada has got a lot to say about these instructions, if you guys haven't already noticed by the links of our purports. Vinirdutashe shamano malapumam Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan Yarangiri Mule Krita Kitana Punar Nasam Shritim Klesha Vahan Prapadyate Vinirdutate Shamano Malapumam Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan Yar Angiri Mule Krita Kitana Punar Nasam Shritim Klesha Vaham Prapadyate Vinirdutate Shamano Malapuman Asangya Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan Yarangiri Mude Krita Kitana Punar Nasam Shritim Klesha Vaham Prapadyate. Beautiful verse, but I can't do it justice. Anyway, you guys teach me how.
Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan Yadangre Mule Krita Ketana Punar Sanskrit Klesha Vaham Prapadyate Vinir Dutashe Shamano Mula Puman Vasam Gavi Gyana Vishesha Viryavan Yaram Vimule Kritaketana Punar Nasam Shitim Klesha Vaham Prapadyate
Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan Yaram Vimule Kritaketana Punar Nasam Shritam Klesha Vaham Prapadyate
Vinirdutashe Shamano Malapuman Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan Yadangri Mule Krita Ketana Punar Nasam Shritim Klesha Vaham Prapadyate Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan
All right, word for word. Vinirduta, being specifically cleansed. Ashesha, unlimited. Mana Malaha, mental speculation or the dirt accumulated in the mind. Fuman, the person. Asanga, being disgusted. Vijnana, scientifically. Vishesha, particularly. Viravan, being strengthened in bhakti yoga. Yat, whose. Angiri, lotus feet. Mule, at the root of. Kirta Ketanaha, taking shelter. Punaha, again. Na, never. Samsritim, material existence. Kleshavaham, full of miserable conditions. Prapadyate, takes to. So this is the translation. Raj speaking to his citizens here. When a devotee takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is completely cleansed of all misunderstanding or mental speculation. He manifests renunciation. This is possible only when one is strengthened by practicing bhakti yoga. Once having taken shelter at the root of the lotus feet of the Lord, a devotee never comes back to this material existence, which is full of the threefold miseries. Please repeat. When a devotee takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is completely cleansed of all misunderstanding or mental speculation. And he manifests renunciation. This is possible only when one is strengthened by practicing bhakti yoga. Once having taken shelter at the root of the lotus feet of the Lord, a devotee never comes back to this material existence, which is full of the threefold miseries. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As stated by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshashtika instructions, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, or by the process of hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, one's mind is gradually cleansed of all dirt. Due to our material association since time immemorial, we have accumulated heaps of dirty things in our minds. The total effect of this takes place when a living entity identifies himself with his body and is thus trapped by the stringent laws of material nature and put into the cycle of repeated birth and death under the false impression of bodily identification. When one is strengthened by practicing bhakti yoga, his mind is cleansed of this misunderstanding, and he is no longer interested in material existence or in sense gratification. Bhakti, or devotional service, is characterized by vairagya and jnana. Jnana refers to understanding that one is not his body, and vairagya means disinterest in sense gratification. These two primary principles of separation from material bondage can be realized on the strength of bhakti yoga. Thus, when a devotee is fixed in the loving service of the lotus feet of the Lord, he will never come back to this material existence after quitting his body, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita by the Lord. Tyakta deham punarjanma naitimam eti sojana. In this verse, the word vijnana is specifically important. Jnana, the knowledge of spiritual identity that one attains when he does not consider himself to be the body, is explained in Bhagavad Gita as Brahmabhuta, the revival of spiritual realization. In the conditioned state of material existence, one cannot be spiritually realized because he identifies himself materially. The understanding of the distinction between material existence and spiritual existence is called jnana. After coming to the platform of jnana, or the Brahmabhuta state, one ultimately comes to devotional service, in which he completely understands his own position and the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This understanding is explained here as vijnana vishesha. The Lord says, therefore, that knowledge of him is vijnana science. In other words, one is strengthened by scientific knowledge of the Supreme Personality. When one is strengthened by scientific knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his position of liberation is guaranteed. In Bhagavad Gita 9.2, the science of devotional service is described as prayatsavagyanam dharmyam, direct understanding of the principles of religion by realization. By practicing bhakti yoga, one can directly perceive his advancement in spiritual life. In other practices like karma, jnana, and dhyana yoga, one may not be confident about his progress. But in Bhakti Yoga, one can become directly aware of his progress in spiritual life, just as a person who eats can understand that his hunger is satisfied. Our false appetite for enjoyment and lordship in the material world is due to a predominance of passion and ignorance. By Bhakti Yoga, these two qualities are diminished, and one becomes situated in the mode of goodness. Gradually surpassing the mode of goodness, one is situated in pure goodness, which is not contaminated by the material qualities. When thus situated, a devotee no longer has any doubts. He knows that he will not come back to this material world. Right. Hold on, I need to drink something after reading. Okay. All right. Well, I don't know how I can do this purport justice, but I'm going to pray to our acharyas that I can say something worthwhile. I'm going to get into the Shagana Janesh Lakaya Chakshrumitamina Tasma Shri Guruvinamaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Visham Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Pakaramayam Derati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru and Vaishnavam Shta Shri Rupam Sagritatam Sakana Raganaptam Vitam Tam Zachitam Sadvaitam Savadutam Krishna Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Shta He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopakanta Radhakanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanushti Devi Pranamami Hari Pre Vacha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitana Bhav Nevyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Prince Maharaj is saying here that when a devotee takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all misunderstanding is completely cleansed and he manifests renunciation. But this is only possible by the practice of Bhakti Yoga. So this process of Krishna consciousness, we have knowledge, jnana, and many books, and these books have many wonderful teachings in them to help us make advancement in devotional service. But what we really want to go to is we want to go from jnana to vijnana, because you might be able to have some idea of something, but it really won't hit you until you've actually realized it. For example, I tried to describe jackfruit to my family because jackfruit is one of my favorite things. And I was trying to describe to them what it was like. I'm like, oh, it can be either savory or it can be sweet, depending on how ripe it is. It's like a fruit that kind of, I was like, when it's sweet, it kind of tastes like bubblegum. It's yellowish. And then when it's savory, it can be used in all sorts of dishes. And they couldn't really I was like, I can't really tell you. You just have to taste it to really actually understand how good jackfruit is. So the process of Krishna consciousness is kind of also like that. So many things can be explained within Shastra, but until one actually takes up the practice seriously and starts to work on cleansing the heart and the mind of the dust that's been accumulated for lifetimes, you really, really, really can't taste it. I mean, it's like somebody who you see they come to classes, and yeah, there's benefit in hearing always. And hearing is the most important thing. But unless one takes up this hearing with the intention of trying to understand Krishna and who they are and what their position is, if one is just hearing for some entertainment, the full effect doesn't really get there. Or if you think, I'm going to understand Krishna consciousness completely just by hanging out with the devotees and not actually working on myself, it doesn't really work. You've seen people like this, because we actually had to work on getting this material desires out of the heart in order for Krishna to be able to come in and take full effect. So throughout various lifetimes, we have this dust gradually accumulating on us. And Prabhupada says this time immemorial. But the great sages, they've given us the process for removing this dust. Today is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's disappearance day. So every morning we sing Samsara Dahava Lalita Loka, Trinaya Karunya Ganaganatvam, Pratasikayana Gunyana Vasya, Bande Guroshi Charanadavindam. So the spiritual master is compared like a rain cloud that extinguishes a forest fire. So there's a forest fire of material desires within our heart. But we get rid of this forest fire by, Krishna says in Bhagavatam, Srimvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridayanta Stohya Badrani Vidunanti Sritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramama super soul in everyone's heart and the benefactor and of the truthful devotee, cleanses his desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So by hearing the messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the material desires are cleansed within the heart. But we have to develop the desire to hear these messages. So how is it that the desire to hear these messages are manifested within our heart? And Sutta Goswami explains this to the sages at Naimisharanya. He says, Shurusho Shradanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipraha Punya Tirta Nishevanat. O twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So by serving those devotees, like the spiritual master, who are completely free from vice. So what is a vice? A sin? What other definition of vice? Yes.
Vice is an object of sense gratification used to satisfy lust.
Object of sense gratification used to satisfy lust. So
It's got you like a vice.
Yeah, it's got you like a vice. So these material desires we had, they're like vices. So therefore, we actually become free from them by first serving those who are actually free from them. And by serving those who are actually free from them, then we get the taste for hearing about Krishna and hearing about his glories. And by that taste, the dirt is gradually cleansed from our hearts. So it's a whole process. And then we get to this verse that we chant every day. Nasta Praishu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhakti Nashtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. In loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as a irrevocable fact. So, to take us from jnana to vijnana, cleansing this dirt accumulated in the heart, we have to develop this taste for hearing about the Lord and hearing about his glories. So there's two forms of kirtan that's described in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And the first one is, we have the chanting of the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But then also, Prabhupada says here that not only that, but also the second form of kirtan is by hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, and also included with this is the glory of the Lord's associates. And so, because by hearing these things, gradually we realize how sweet Krishna is. Otherwise, how would we know how sweet Bhakti Yoga is unless we actually see how it is practiced and how the devotees of the Lord have this taste? Which is why the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Chaitanya Bhagavat are so sweet, right? Because you see in Kali Yuga how Bhakti Yoga is practiced and what it's really like to be a pure devotee of the Lord. I think Kirtaneshwar told me once, he said, I can't stop reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. She, what?
So reading it.
Still reading it. Yes, I hear him all the time listening to Chaitanya Charitamrita because it really teaches you how to be a devotee. As in our category of conditioned souls, we are the marginal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as marginal potency, there is this tendency to either look towards Krishna or look away from Krishna. So, and we'll always have this free will to either look towards Krishna or look away from Krishna. And whether we look towards Krishna or look away from Krishna will depend on what association we put ourselves in. One of the great things that I've done recently is I've heard from like different devotees, kind of like what it was like for them when they were with Prabhupada. But I've also heard what it was like when Prabhupada left. And you can see that, when Prabhupada was on the planet, many devotees, they were disengaged in Bhakti Yoga full time. They didn't really think about their like any material desires or anything like that. It was all about, serving Prabhupada, serving this devotee that's free of vice. But however, once Prabhupada left, there were some individuals, they were explaining that to me that, they put themselves in material association again. And because they put themselves in material association again, the material desires started to grow within the heart. So this is what will happen. You can be in a very in a nice temple environment. You can be directly serving your spiritual master. You can be in ecstasy and bliss for so many years. But if you again put yourself in this material association, thinking, okay, well, I know Krishna consciousness, I know the process, so therefore, I can just go put myself in any association, in every association, then that can be very dangerous, because material desires will grow again in the heart. As I mentioned before, we're marginal potency, so we're not going to escape that. So, since we cleanse this dirt from our heart by hearing about the glories of the Lord, I thought that I would speak a little bit today. I was going to touch a little bit on Vishnu Priya Devi, and then Raghunath Das Goswami, and then also Pundarik Vidyamiti. I won't tell all their whole pastimes, but just a little bit, because their lives kind of show how, by the practice of Bhakti Yoga, renunciation is manifest. So I will start. I'll start with Raghunath Das Goswami. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he was actually born in a wealthy family. He was sort of a very well-off family. And when he was a child, he had the opportunity to get the darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And immediately from that darshan, he had the desire to go join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But he went back home. But he had this kind of desire within his heart, I want to join Mahaprabhu. So later, Mahaprabhu was coming around to his town, and he wanted to go see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So his father let him go, but his father sent some guards with him. So he goes and he sees Mahaprabhu. And this is his meeting with Mahaprabhu. And what Mahaprabhu tells him is not necessarily like instructions for him, but Raghunath Das Goswami is enacting this part kind of for our benefit, because it is said that for one who is not completely pure, it's not advised to just give up one's duty. So it said, when Raghunath saw the Lord, it was as though he regained a new lease on life. He's been waiting a long time to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He told the Lord of the intolerable situation he was living, and prayed to him to tell him how he could break free from the bondage of his material existence. The all-knowing Lord could understand the depth of Raghunath's feeling, and yet he tried to pacify him with the following instruction: calm yourself and return home. Don't be foolish. It takes time to cross the ocean of materialist suffering. Don't make a show of monkey renunciation. This is called This is called Markata Vairagya. Simply for other people's benefit. Enjoy worldly life in a moderate way, without attachment. Be fixed on Krishna eternally, by externally dealing with the world in the appropriate fashion. It will not be long before Krishna delivers you. So as it says here, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami has made the following comments on this Markata Vairagya. To a superficial eye, monkeys are engaged in renunciation because they live naked in the forest without any fixed home. In fact, they are interested only in their own sense enjoyment and have never given it up. Such showball renunciation is called Markata Vairagya, monkey renunciation. Real renunciation comes from a side effect of pure devotion. The other types of renunciation, which arise out of frustration with material pleasures or desires, cannot last throughout one's life because of its temporary character. Such renunciation is therefore called pagu or false. Such temporary renunciation, or monkey renunciation, is known as shamashana vairagya, the renunciation of the cremation ground. Because when you go to the cremation ground and you're burning the body of a relative, everybody's kind of sober. Oh, death is going to happen to me one day. And then after a few days, you kind of forget about it. So therefore, he tells Raghunath Das Goswami, you go home, just be internally attached to Krishna, and, externally, do your duties. And so Raghunath Das Goswami, he goes back home. And it's said later, there's kind of like a whole lecture here, but we don't have time to read it. It's all really good. But it says here that Raghunath returned home and gave up his feverish desire to renounce material life and instead engaged in his various duties with a sense of detachment. When his parents saw Raghunath abandon all the external signs of renunciation, they were delighted and began to think that there was no necessity for a tight guard around their son. And then a year later, Raghunath once again became anxious to see Mahaprabhu. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happens in between, but I don't have time to tell it because I also want to talk about Vishnu Priya. But a year later, Raghunath once again became anxious to see Mahaprabhu and repeatedly ran away from home in an effort to go to Puri. Each time he was caught by his father and returned home. Raghunath's mother thought that her son was going mad and told her husband to place him under guard again. Govardhan responded in defeated tones. He has as much wealth as Indra, the king of the gods, and his wife is as beautiful as the heavenly courtesans. If these things have not been able to capture his spirit, then how will mere ropes be able to do so? The father who gives life to a child cannot interfere with the effects of his previous life's actions. Sri Chaitanya Chandra has given his blessings to this boy, who can keep prisoner one who has been made mad by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, while Raghunath Das was devising a plan for how he would be delivered from his entanglements, he heard that Nityananda Prabhu had made an auspicious appearance in the town of Panihati. Thinking that Nityananda was the deliverer of the most fallen, and that by his mercy he would surely be able to find his freedom, he went across the Ganges to Panihati, where he found the Lord sitting under a wooden seat, surrounded by his associates. So there's a really beautiful pastime that takes place here. Nityananda is actually the original spiritual master. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he goes and, or he's Raghunath Das at this point. He's not quite Goswami yet. He goes to Panihati and sees Lord Nityananda, and he holds the chipped rice festival, the Panihati festival. This festival is celebrated every year in Atlanta, and all the devotees make different pots of chipped rice. It's a very beautiful festival. Jaib Thakur Maharaj in the past has come a lot to this festival, and I swear for the whole entire time, it's like you have so many varieties of chipped rice that when you get done eating, it's like you're thinking to yourself, okay, I don't know if I can eat rice again for a month, because I had no idea that there were so many varieties of rice. And it's ecstasy. They auction off these different pods of sweet rice, and you don't even have to buy one. because there's so much sweet rice in these pots, or so much, savory rice, sweet rice, so many types of sweet rice, so many different types of savory rice, that when people get one, they'll just start giving it to you because it's more than what they can eat. So it's like you end up with, just plates and plates and plates of rice. So anyway, this was the original Panihati festival that Raghunath Das put on for Lord Nityananda. And by doing this, Lord Chaitanya appeared. And, he pleased Lord Nityananda and he pleased Lord Chaitanya. So, at the end of this festival, Raghunath Das, it said he emotionally asked Nityananda Prabhu how he could possibly gain freedom from his material entanglements and find the association of Mahaprabhu. Like an ocean of mercy, Lord Nityananda placed his feet on Raghunath's head and said, "You arranged this feast on the banks of the river, and Mahaprabhu was merciful to you and came here himself to enjoy it." So then he tells him, "Lord Gauranga has now cleared your impediments, and he will turn you over to Sri Damodar, making you his confidential servant. He will keep you by his side. Go home now and forget your worries. You will soon be able to go to the Lord without any difficulties." So Raghunath Das, he goes home, and he then therefore he arranges this whole plan to escape. He takes a different path around so his father can't find him, and then gradually he meets the Lord at I think it's Puri, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and originally in the very beginning, he's taking the Mahaprasad of Mahaprabhu, but then gradually, his renunciation becomes more and more and more, till it gets to the point that he's only taking rice that's been kind of thrown out and given to the animals. So the story of Raghunath Das is very beneficial for us because it shows us, number one, how sweet actually pure bhakti to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu really is, that the devotee doesn't have any desire for anything else. And once, like this verse is saying, once a devotee realizes this, right, is taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, he never comes back again to this material existence. So for Raghunath Das, we can see that once he had this darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his renunciation was there. He had no attachment to this material world. But then also this pastime is instructive because it tells a conditioned soul too how gradually they can develop this type of renunciation, because realistically in this life we're going to find ourselves in some situations that are not going to be 100% favorable to Krishna consciousness. You're never going to be in a situation really that's like, oh, this is 100% favorable for my advancement, or I don't have anything that's annoying me, or I don't have anything that's distracting me. Because the way the conditioned mind is you're always going to be irritated by something as long as you're conditioned. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving this instruction internally. We have to become attached to Krishna while externally doing the duties. And as we become attached to Krishna more internally, gradually any material impediment that we might have, the Lord will eventually take away. So where we have nothing but Him at the end. But this internal attachment comes by hearing about these great devotees, hearing about how sweet bhakti is, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting the holy name with serious attention, which all therefore then doesn't happen unless one engages in service to those devotees who are actually free from vice themselves. So with that said, I will also very quickly discuss Vishnupriya, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. So Vishnupriya was the second wife of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and she has a very important contribution to our Gaudiya Sampradaya. And very quickly, I'll read, because there's a whole pastime with her, but I'll just read about how sweet the parting is of Vishnupriya and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because it really shows the attachment that the devotee has for the Lord and that the Lord has for the devotee. So, so this is after Lord Chaitanya decides that he's going to take sannyas. And during this time, Lord Chaitanya was manifesting his more ecstatic symptoms So prior to taking sannyas, or right before he took sannyas, he wasn't paying much attention to Vishnupriya because he was in ecstasy all the time, chanting the holy name. And so this is the night before he takes sannyas. And it said, although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had previously paid no attention to her that night, after taking his food, he decorated her hair and placed betel nuts in her mouth. Earlier that morning, he had gone to visit and meet with all of his associates. And during this meeting, he had got some preparations and came home and told his mother, make some prasadam from these preparations. And then he honored that prasadam, at which he entered the room of Vishnupriya Devi. Then with love and affection, he decorated her, gave her a beautiful garland, placed betel nuts in her mouth, and engaged in an affectionate conversation with her. Vishnupriya was greatly perplexed. What is this? A hurricane light burns brightly when it is just about to be extinguished. I see now that my fate may be like this. Thinking like this, she gently set and massaged his lotus feet, tears pouring from her eyes. Shri Gauranga opened his eyes, and he felt her tears on his feet. Pulling her toward him and gently wiping her tears, he asked, "O goddess, you are most dear to me. Why are you weeping?" Unable to utter a word, Vishnupriya simply wept uncontrollably. A flood of tears rained from her eyes. Shri Gauranga asked her again and again, but she wouldn't say a word. Holding his feet with both her arms, she wept. Then the Lord, who is in everyone's heart, gently placed her in his lap and spoke sweet words to her and calmed her down. In a voice choked with emotion, Vishnupriya finally spoke. My life, my beauty, my youth, my service, my dress, and adornment is only meant to please you. If you leave me, what will a worthless pile of ashes do? What will I, a worthless pile of ashes, do with my life? The most magnificent and merciful Lord was neither unaware nor indifferent to his dearest devotee's pain and grief. He also wept with her. Finally, to her, he revealed the secret of his appearance and mission. Wiping her tears with his garment, he embraced her and told her that Shri Krishna is the supreme husband of all. Your name is Vishnupriya, she who is dear to Lord Vishnu. Please make your name true to yourself. Do not needlessly torment yourself with the worries of the world or what they will say. Dedicate your mind and body to serving Hari. Lord Gauranga then manifested his four-armed Narayan form. He displayed his Maya Shakti and made Vishnupriya temporarily forget her pain. He joked and teased with her and pacified her. Thus they spent their last night together. Mahaprabhu then gave her a special kripa. O goddess Vishnupriya, now hear my words. Whenever you think of me, I will come to you. I solemnly promise you this, it is the truth. Then Yogamaya entered Vishnupriya's eyes in the form of sleepiness. She did not want to fall asleep, but by the power of Yogamaya, she was forced to do so. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glanced at her at once and then stood up to leave home to take sannyas. So it said after this, Vishnupriya lived in agony of separation from Shri Gauranga after his departure. Every morning, with the exception of taking bath daily in the Ganga alongside with Mother Sachi, she always remained in the house. She led a very strict spiritual life and looked after Sachi Ma, who was heartbroken and devastated after her son's departure. She immersed herself in the holy name, chanting all day long in solitude before a portrait of Mahaprabhu, serving it as though he were present in it, and surrendering herself to his lotus feet. So it says what happens when one takes shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, renunciation automatically manifests. So we can see here that Vishnu said that Vishnupriya abandoned food and drink. Well, no, at first actually she was chanting the holy name, and for every 16-syllable nam she uttered during her japa, she would place a grain of rice aside, and when she had completed her rounds, she would then cook the rice and then offer it to the Lord, and that's how she would eat. She was renounced in this way. So after this, it said that she abandoned all food and drink. And then Mahaprabhu appeared to her in a dream, telling her to have a deity of himself carved from the wood of the mangosta tree. So this was a tree that Satyamata had sat under. And so it said later when the deity was finished, Vishnupriya sang the verse of Chandidas. Here is the Lord of my life. I am finally able to see him, for whom the shafts of love have caused me to burn and come to the point of dying. She was thus the first disciple of Mahaprabhu and the first to establish the worship of the deity of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. After Vishnupriya's disappearance, her cousin took the deity to his house. So she was actually the first one to establish this deity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So now we have so many deities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But hearing these pastimes about these associates, and we can see how when one really, really develops this vijnana that's talked about in this verse, that actually that desire for anything else, it just completely goes away. Vishnupriya, she gave up eating and everything else. And then also Pundarik Vidyanidhi, whose appearance day is today, we can see that he was actually externally living this very opulent lifestyle. But he was not attached to any of it. As soon as Mukunda and I believe it was Gadadhar Pandit came to see him, they started reading this verse about Putana, and we can see Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he goes into ecstasy, not caring about any of these external expensive things around him. He begins to destroy it all. But previously, when Gadadhar walked in, he was thinking, who is this? What type of Vaishnava is this? He's looking at his handsome self in the mirror. He's being served by all these servants. But we can see that this is the internal heart of a Vaishnava, is that they might be in this material situation or that material situation, but their real attachment is to Krishna because they have this realized knowledge of Krishna. So as Conditioned Souls Prabhupada is telling us that we develop this vijnana, as I'll say before, by serving the devotees who have it, but then also then that gives us a desire to hear about Krishna, to hear about these pastimes. And then you sit here, you realize how sweet they are, and you think, I want that. So the desire gradually grows and grows in the heart. And the same way that material desires grow and grow in the heart when we have these, when we're in material association. So, sorry, I couldn't go into more about the great personalities that appeared today. There's not a class long enough for it, especially with this purport. But I hope this gave you a little bit of taste. So are there any questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Hearing about Vishnupriya is very emotional. It's a very emotional thing to hear about. So if you think about, like the person you have, if you ever had someone you loved a lot and then they died and those tears you cry and you think about someone like Mahaprabhu and them leaving, it's very emotional. But thank you so much for those pastimes. I just wanted to share about hearing, how powerful the process of hearing is. And I take inspiration from Ganganath Prabhu, and when he was always hearing. And so I've taken up that, trying to follow in the footsteps of that. And, I'm, first part of my day, an hour before Mangalar, an hour before I start chanting my rounds, I hear an hour of Chaitanya Charitamrita, usually every day.
Oh, beautiful.
Before, while I'm getting ready, and then I chant my rounds in Mangalartik. And then, if I'm ever doing deity service or dressing the deities, it's another hour and a half of Chaitanya Charitamrita plus the Bhagavatam class. And so that hearing process is so powerful. I know that since I've been doing that and just trying to always have something in my, like intravenously always have something going in my consciousness that's Krishna conscious, it's like, it's like a skyrocket, especially if it has to do with Sri Krishna Chaitanya, because then you get all this special mercy. So yeah.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I know you guys think really quick.
It's super quick. It's pretty important detail. I was wondering if you planned on color coordinating with your garland. I think I ask you this every time.
You're
like perfectly matched.
To be honest with you, I never. Because when I get up in the morning, I'm just thinking about my japa. So literally, I just grab whatever's clean and put it on.
Or Super Soul does. Krishna loves the color coordinate you. It's so cool.
I'm like, okay, what sari is clean? This is the sari I'm wearing today. And then when that sari gets a hole, then I'm like, okay, I need a new sari. Other than that, no. Yes, Prabhu.
What is the root of the lotus feet of the Lord? What is the root of the lotus feet of the Lord? We can think of the lotus feet, but what is the root?
The root of that. Oh, wow, that's a good question. Does anybody have any idea? It's very poetic the way it's written here. Once I'm thinking about the root of the lotus feet, I'm guessing. I shouldn't guess actually, but the way I understand it is, we don't, when we approach Krishna, we're starting at the very, very bottom. We don't start like at the base, which is why we read Bhagavatam from first canto all the way up to 10. So I think the root of the feet is kind of just at the very, very bottom, maybe the soul. Things like that, yeah. That's how I was understanding it. If somebody else has something they want to add to that, because I don't always perfectly understand the poetry of the Bhagavatam because I don't have so much feet yet.
We're going to get rid of a root is the square. I'm going to have the lotus feet square.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there you go.
That was a math joke.
Oh, yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Well, it was math.
Okay. Going through Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.